Overcrowding of forests means that all plants must compete for a limited supply of water, nutrients, and sunlight. In the dry climate of central Washington, increased competition between plants means that individual trees are often stressed and weakened. Conifers competing with each other for water and nutrients are less able to fight off attacks from insects and disease. One result is a drastically increased number of beetle-killed trees in the forests. Several human generations have experienced forests without the natural cleansing effects of frequent ground fires. It's easy to assume that the dense, thick east side forests of today are natural. They are not. And unfortunately, defending these forests from high-intensity wildfires is becoming increasingly difficult. These forests will burn again. It's only a matter of when. In 1994, wildfires in Chelan and Okanogan counties exploded over 200,000 acres.
I'm Brendan McLaughlin. It started with a single bolt of lightning, and soon a thunderstorm turned into a firestorm. It's an annual rite of nature in the West and here in Washington, but the Washington firestorm of 1994 was one of the worst ever, the worst in more than 20 years. Just take a look at some of the numbers. More than 200,000 acres burned statewide, 37 homes up in flames. More than 10,000 firefighters from all over the country on the front lines, many of them military troops called in by President Clinton. And all of it cost more than $44 million, with the final tab certain to go much higher. The worst of these fires were the Rat Creek blaze near Leavenworth and the Tyee Creek fire near Chelan. The Tyee Creek fire alone burned more than 100,000 acres. The Rat Creek blaze was smaller but threatened thousands more.
Right now, this firestorm is creating its own wind. You can see behind me, just everything is just blowing very quickly. It is blowing flaming embers that is causing these spot fires. This is what is making this a tough and dangerous firefight. You don't know where the next fire is going to start. And right now we're being told to get out because it's just too dangerous to be here.
Forest soils are damaged by this type of high-intensity fire. When all the standing trees are killed, their roots no longer hold soil in place, and rapid erosion can occur. Damage to forest ecosystems is severe. For several years, the danger of flash flooding and debris flows is extreme. Effects on water quality, wildlife habitat, and fisheries can be significant. It cost $90 million to suppress the Chelan and Okanogan County fires of 1994, and nearly $19 million more for emergency rehabilitation efforts. It's clear that several 100,000 acres of dense, dry forests must be moved to a more sustainable and healthy condition. It's a daunting task, but work has already begun. A combination of actions is being implemented to restore dry forests to a condition that is both resilient and sustainable. Activities include thinning, chipping, and pruning, as well as hand piling of unwanted limbs and vegetation for later burning, and using prescribed fire over large areas. The first step is to reduce fuels by lowering the density of small trees growing in dry forests. An aggressive program of thinning on thousands of acres each year and selective logging to remove small fir and pine trees is underway. As selective logging focuses on removal of small trees, the larger, well-spaced ponderosa pine and Douglas fir are left on the landscape. This area of the Entiat Ranger District was thinned, and the ground fuels piled and burned prior to the 1994 wildfire that swept the area. When the intense flames of that fire reached this fuel break, fire behavior changed dramatically. What had been a raging crown fire became a surface burn as it moved through, leaving a significant number of live trees behind. If the same treatment had been accomplished over a larger landscape, much more of the forest would still be intact. Before fire can be safely reintroduced into dry forests on the Okanogan and Wenatchee National Forests, heavy fuel buildups must first be reduced. Without first removing fuels, we would destroy the very ecosystems we are trying to save. Prescribed fire is used under carefully controlled conditions to reduce fuels, restore and rejuvenate fire-dependent plant species, and to improve wildlife habitat. Prescribed fires are carefully planned to minimize smoke impacts on populated areas. Focusing our restoration efforts on forest lands near rural communities is a high priority to reduce the risk of fire damage to private property. Activities are designed to create a mosaic of forest conditions across the landscape. Open stands create fuel breaks around denser forest groves, protecting wildlife and plants dependent on dense, multi-storied forests from devastating wildfires. The Forest Service will continue to aggressively suppress all wildfires when private property and significant forest resources are threatened. We've done a great job of making the public aware of their role in preventing wildfires. However, we're also now helping the public to understand the role fire plays in maintaining sustainable ecosystems. What has been missing is an understanding of the inevitability of fire. Where forest fires are concerned, the question is not if, but when they will occur, and how extreme they will be. Though important, the trees are only one of many interdependent parts of a forest ecosystem. To be healthy, the land must be whole. People are a part of this whole, not apart from it. We depend on the land for a sustainable flow of spiritual, recreational, and commodity values. We must focus on individual parts of the ecosystem, but understand the interdependency of all the parts. As society's values have changed, management philosophies in the Forest Service have come to emphasize this holistic ecological approach. By involving citizens with differing opinions on forest management, we are developing a common understanding of the future forest. Land managers are also constantly evaluating the subtle changes in the forest for indications that the short and long-term path is right. It took almost 100 years for the transformation of our dry forests to occur, so it will take many years to restore these forests to a healthy, sustainable condition. Any actions taken to restore ecosystems must include monitoring to see if we are meeting our objectives. An extensive monitoring effort has already been initiated to gauge the effectiveness of our dry site restoration efforts. A team composed of managers, researchers, and university scientists has developed a comprehensive plan to monitor wildlife, fire, plants, insects, and pathogens. By monitoring our efforts, we can fine-tune, change, and adapt our methods if necessary. History demonstrates that both nature and human culture are dynamic. Discoveries in forest science and changes in public expectations have led us to new visions of resilient forests. With the application of ecosystem management over large landscapes, we can reduce the risk of catastrophic fire. And we can restore our dry forest ecosystems. Ecologically responsible management to meet society's needs will provide benefits for generations to come.